What is it called again?
Katsu, that sort of pumping motion to the body to get human growth hormone, testosterone, E cells, just about everything. That nitric oxide, honestly, this is the premier performance enhancement thing that you could do.
What led you down this path?
Why not try something that is out of the ordinary? And people go, well, where's the science? I love science. I think that people have made it into a religion. It's a methodology. It's not a religion.
Is there anything practically that you can give to people in terms of being able to slowly get rid of pain?
When you're grateful for what you have in this moment right now, whether or not you're healed or not, or whether you're in pain or not, that's when the magic really happens. That's when somehow that's that moment in time where it's like, boom, it's gone.
Oh,
it's pumping.
Okay. It's still pumping.
It'll pump and let go, and then take a pause.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
Katsu.
And that's some of the original blood flow restriction training was done.
With
some of the
this.
studies were done utilizing that.
Almost all the studies were done using that. And I mean, I was just in Japan with Dr. Sato, and what he said is the WHO, the World Health Organization, has Eastern medicine as a category. They have Western medicine as a category, and they have Katsu medicine as a category.
Really?
Yes, they just have bad marketing. That people don't understand, like how significant this product is, that sort of pumping motion to the body to get human growth hormone, testosterone, T cells, just about everything. That nitric oxide, honestly, this is the premier performance enhancement thing that you could do.
So most of the time when someone's doing blood flow restriction, my understanding is they're just using a wrap or something.
It's constant.
And it's restricted. Then they do a set, and then they got to figure out how to kind of take it off. But this has varying amounts of air that are being pumped into it kind of.
Yeah. So it'll go in and out. But you can set it on constant mode and, get that big, vein to pop out of your head, out of your body. But this, for health reasons, for the regular person, just walk around, do your dishes. It's working out without working out. So you can be on your computer and be getting a workout. And to me, that's why not? But you're also healing parts of your body that just needs flow, right?
It makes sense. It's almost like you're, with it being on your arms, it's almost like your upper body's going for a walk.
Right. And then they have leg ones as well. And the leg ones, I can put later on, we can go play, but I can put it at 400, although my legs are small. Your legs are probably a lot bigger than mine. And then we can put it on 400, and then you go lift, and you don't have to lift heavy. So again, I was telling them, Dr. Sato is 76 years old, and he's got 20-inch guns, for a 76-year-old man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's incredible. And what he wants to do when LA 2028
That's got to be a record. That's got to be a world record.
That's pretty freaking
to have
big.
that big of arms at that age, that's amazing.
He has to get custom shirts made for him in Japan because Japanese people tend to be very thin. And so, his goal is to go to 2028 and invite RFK to compete with their guns out.
Some of my experience with blood flow restriction, which isn't a lot, I don't have a ton of experience with it, but I will say that I've utilized, I'll take a wrap. I've wrapped my bicep / shoulder area.
Yep.
And I've had a lot of pain go out of the area of, say, my elbow or something like that,
Yes.
which I was surprised because, you try to think if I put compression on the area that hurts, that's going to be the area that heals. But in this case, it seems to work maybe a little differently. And when I've had it on that shoulder bicep area, any pain that I had in my elbow seemed to just completely disappear. And not only would it disappear, but it felt therapeutic. It felt like it was going to help for future workouts.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, again, if you've had, I was just telling Nsima, there was a kid who had broken his arm, And they had to cut off the cast because they were only using one arm with the katsu, and it grew so much that it outgrew the cast. And if you compared the two arms, one was bigger than the other. And then not only was it bigger, he was hairier. Wow. So he had no hair on the one that had no katsu, and the one with the cast had grown a ton of hair. And it feels
amazing.
faster.
So you try the katsu, you try it on your neck, and then you get your hair on your head.
I wish it worked like that. But it's the growth hormone. It's the HGH, right? And so think about, as we age, our human growth hormone goes down. Mm-hmm. But if we have something like this, it can keep us healthy till we're like 150. I mean, I plan to live to 150 looking like this. I mean, but I got all kinds of ways I'm trying out. I'm trying to, with this machine, trying to work on my genes on a quantum level and try to see if I can make any changes so that I can, if a gene is starting to fail, can I fix it?
How did you get into all this? Because you were showing us all kinds of stuff in the gym earlier. And so what's your background and what led you down this path? Were you trying more conventional things and they weren't really working great?
My mom's a doctor. She's a pediatrician, Western trained. My dad's an engineer. And so I think I took the best of both worlds, trying to engineer the thinking.
Engineers always asking questions.
And so my mom is very Westernized and doesn't really do any of this stuff. So, and interestingly, my dad lets me play with him and lets me try out some things. My mom won't let me touch her. Although recently, some of this patching stuff, she's like, oh, it actually kind of works. So she's letting me do some of the things to her. But how did I get into this? I used to work in the movie business. I had a very wild career.
In what way?
I was a camera assistant. So I worked on the television show Charmed.
Oh,
yeah.
I watched a lot of Charmed.
So Charmed was funny because when I was working on it, this is when I had my kids on Charmed. Like my daughter was born when I was working on that show. And what was fascinating was, at the time, I didn't believe any of that stuff. I did, they were scrying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why am I wasting my time on a show like this? And now I go, oh, I'm actually doing a lot of what they're doing.
Some of the magic.
It seems magical. And what happened was, I was working on a movie up in Half Moon Bay called American Pie 3.
Okay.
And we were at the Ritz-Carlton, and I was in a bathtub. I was like, I'm in luxury. I can take a bath. Well, baths give women urinary tract infections. So I had never had a urinary tract infection in my life, and I got one. Mm. And it was so bad. It was the bleeding kind. So you would pee blood. And it was literally felt like I was giving birth again. That's how painful it was. And so I went to the doctor, and I had 3 rounds of antibiotics. So the first round, they go, oh, you're 95% cured, right? Or it's gone. It's not, but you still have some. So they gave me another one, and it was called Cipro, and I immediately had a reaction. That's the one they give you if you get anthrax. Mm. And then they gave me one more, and then 5 months later, I think I'm done, and I get the same thing. It came back. Wow. And I go, I am never going to do antibiotics again. I had made that decision. And so I'd gone to this chiropractic guy, and he did this weird stuff that you stuck, he measured your finger with this electronic device, and it was zzz, and tell you okay, well, your kidney is doing this, and he fixed it. He was the guy who kind of he fixed my knee. And he was the one who said, look, if you were to take, he goes, I had my knee was not happy, and I went to the doctor, and I had an MRI, and he goes, do you have a meniscus tear? And he goes you know what? It doesn't matter. He goes, if they had done your other knee, it would probably have shown a meniscus tear. But why is one in pain and one not in pain? And he was opening my eyes to a different way of seeing things. And then he was also the one that said, I said, well, what if it's a placebo, right? What if it's, I was at that time just conventional medicine. And he goes, does it matter if you got better from a placebo from cancer? And I really had to think about that. I go, you know what? You're right. You got better. What does it matter? What means I got better from? And then that sort of opened my mind up to like doing different things. And that started me on a path of searching. And I've not stopped searching since. Like I am constantly looking for ways that are not conventional and that possibly work. And again, even if it works from a placebo, people, what if it's a placebo? Well, we know that drugs, when they do drug trials, it's 30% placebo. So then like Joe Dispenza, like he studies placebo.
And if you're talking about pain, the other thing is time.
Time.
There's like nothing more powerful than time. So if we have a little bit of placebo, you give me a little bit of hope for a couple weeks. We got time, we got the placebo effect, and then 6 weeks later, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. And it is here because, right? I mean, like Joe Dispenza did all the works on his spine through his mind. And then 11 weeks, which was not supposed to happen, he was able to start walking again. And they want to do surgery. But most people aren't willing to do the work and the time it takes. And then they don't also believe that they are that powerful. And I think if the message is out there that you are powerful and you are powerful, we are all powerful, then what can we do to help people regain that power, to take back their power to heal themselves?
You were mentioning antibiotics. Are you familiar with some natural things that people can use instead of antibiotics?
Sure. People use silver, as long as you don't overdo anything. People do, honestly, garlic works. There's so many, like, I like earthclinic.com that because it's natural and you can look things up. And
what's it hurt to try some garlic?
Yeah.
Right? Oregano oil, I believe, is another one.
For like ear infections, people do like garlic and oil in the ear and they just stick that in there. Again, like I will try alternative before I go conventional. If you have to go conventional, you eventually have to, but like, why not? Why not try something that is out of the ordinary? And people go, well, where's the science? Well, when we were all the Chinese medicine, did they have science? No, they somehow got the knowledge from somewhere to find the meridians, to find all the Chinese medicine from like,
how big is that book that you have?
It's
like
it's huge.
Like donkey skin from. I mean, if you've ever eaten Chinese medicine, they're like, it's dreadfully. It tastes awful. But how did they figure that out? How did they know back then how to do cancer, how to do erectile dysfunction with needles? How did they figure it out? It's by trial and error, and they didn't have papers to figure it out. I love science. I think that people have made it into a religion. It's a methodology. It's not a religion. And so I think we can all be scientists. You're a scientist. I think when you're trying out different ways of using the dumbbell, you're a scientist. You're a scientist. And I mean, every one of us is a scientist. Just that, how strict are your methodologies? You don't have to have a PhD to do your own research and to try things out. I know like Ben Greenfield's like basically experimenting on himself. I think we all are.
Yeah. Unfortunately though, like what you just said right there, when we start listening, and it's good, Andrew Herman and these types of podcasts that really focus on the science and give you researched back evidence, right? It's good, but I think sometimes it makes people not have the want to try different things that aren't backed by research. And if it's not evidence-based, then how can it be true? You need the evidence first to be able to actually like see if it really works.
Right. But again, I always make the joke about, here's your cell phone. Do you know how it works? Do you need research-backed papers to turn it on? No. And we have faith that thing is going to work. We're not the scientists. Somebody else created this product, but we don't judge it because we don't have the backing, the research backing on it.
I think something that's interesting is that when you get to be in a position like yourself, we sometimes forget our beginnings. We sometimes forget. You did mention, you have one parent's a doctor, the other one is an engineer. But your own background, I think it's hard to become a Ben Greenfield without, you have to learn a lot of stuff. And a lot of those things are probably going to be, I would say a good chunk of them are probably going to be a little bit traditional. And then as you know the traditional, like I know that this, 3 sets of 12 with 2 or 3 different exercises is going to induce hypertrophy. Well, now I know the rules, and now maybe I can break them, and maybe I can branch out and try some different things. I can say, I wonder if I only did 1 set, but I did 1 set hard, and I did it with the blood flow restriction.
Right, or do eccentrics only. Right? Only do eccentrics and see. That's off topic, but like I know guys who have just now switched to only 1 time a week doing eccentric loading, and they're getting bigger. And I don't know if you know about the Synapse, but the Synapse CCR was created by
the guy's SoCal, right?
Yeah, and he used to work on the ATP tour for tennis players, and he figured out that you could use this device that he created, and these tennis players no longer have to go in the gym. And what does that give them?
Maybe you can try to look that up, Ryan. What's it called? Synapse?
Synapse CCR. And it gives them time to now have time with their families. Like, as a pro athlete, you don't want to spend all your time in the gym. I know you guys love the gym, but but it's life balance, right? We want to be able to spend time with our families, but we also want to be a great athlete. And so that these guys are doing 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds literally working out once a week. And then they go back to the gym and they're like pumping even more so than they've ever been in their lives. They're just doing personal bests.
So this machine, this basically eccentric machine, I think it just puts you through some type of movement or motion, whatever way you're trying to use it. And it just makes even just a couple reps brutal. I've never used it. Have you used it or seen it?
I use it on my athletes all the time. And it's the best when you do it with somebody else, because I can take one finger. You're a big guy and you'll be like, and I'm like, work harder, Nsima. You're not working hard enough.
Cool.
And what we're doing is if you were to have give me your bicep, and if you were pulling the machine and I would pull you out,
right,
and then you would pull it back in,
right,
and even when I'm pulling out, you're still resisting.
Got it.
And so not only are you're stretching the fibers and also getting type 2 fibers, fast twitch fibers going as well. Like this is a whole new way of being, right? And learning to do this.
And this is just on a cable / pulley system for people that aren't watching on YouTube.
Yeah, it's easy to do, and you can set it up anywhere, and you can bring it in your hotel and get a workout that rivals going into the gym.
What is your background? Because you're working with really high level people.
Yeah.
So what's your training background? Because I would imagine that people aren't going to just go to you if you had only these fringe things. There's got to be.
My training background. So I used to be a gymnast when I was a kid. And I started out more like a mental performance. And why mental performance? Because when I was a gymnast, I was in the flow. And I was in my floor routine and I messed up because I started thinking. And as soon as I started thinking, I lost the flow. And then I went to another meet, another state championship, and I'm in the flow again. And I started thinking, oh, this is where I made the mistake. And I made the exact mistake in the same spot. And I know as you guys are athletes, how incredibly important the mind is.
Yeah.
And so when you go to the Olympic levels, and I've been to Olympic trials, I've been to, nationals, and I've been to world championships for swimming. They're all talented. What separates people is this. And they don't spend time here. Everybody spends it working out in the pool. If they spend as much time doing this, the mental stuff, they would be a better athlete. But most coaches don't spend any time there. They spend it all out in the arena, in the pool, in the gym. And that's not what makes Michael Phelps or Simone Biles, right? It's like when she was having her twisties thing, that's, for gymnastics, if you lose your space, you're going to die. Like that's one of the ones where you literally will kill yourself. But for other sports, it's the one component. I think if more people spent time doing this, they would be better at their craft. But it's the same for your body. If you spend time doing this and seeing your hand better, using your mind to get better, then you will get better. Mm-hmm. But if you're using your mind to worry instead of actually being proactive, then that's where it becomes not helpful, right? Because there's placebo and nocebo. You ever heard of nocebo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. And I think healing is on a continuum. I think you can heal people and you can hurt people on a very slight line. And it's all here. It's really all here. So what got me into this is after I did that, I was helping my daughter in her swim club, and I saw this one young man, and I asked him, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to go to the Olympics. I go, who's helping you? He goes, no one. I go, no one goes to the Olympics without a team. So I took him on, and from there, he went from 115th rank to 20th rank.
Wow.
And just kind of like mind stuff. I wasn't doing any of the body stuff at the time. And then he said he wanted to try this different method of training where you just train. It's called USRPT, and he wanted to train fast and try this new methodology. It was kind of new at the time. And I said, well, I'll be your stopwatch, but I can't be your coach because I'm not a coach. So I was his stopwatch. But then I was like, oh, wait, if I want to go to a meet, I think I have to become a coach. So I became a coach. And my very first swim meet, there was Michael Phelps, there was Bob Bowman, there was Simone Manuel, there was all the Olympians were there, Katie Ledecky, and I felt like a total fraud, which I was because I knew nothing. I wasn't a swimmer, I was a gymnast. Mm-hmm. I coached gymnastics, but I also knew the body. I was a healer prior to that. And so I was doing healing work, and now all of this is starting to come together. And I met Jamal over there, and he won a medal in Tokyo. And Jamal's an interesting story because when I met Jamal, he wasn't getting any better while the other people were getting better. And I said, hey, Jamal, I've noticed that you get out of the pool like a quadriplegic, like somebody who's got cerebral palsy or something. And he was getting in the car like that, and nobody ever called him out on that. And I was the first one who did. And he said, well, funny you should say that. I got something called Charcot-Marie tooth. And I go, what's that? He was like, well, it's a neurological condition where I can't use my legs, where I have normal looking legs, but they don't work. So I've moved into sort of like para swimming because it's fascinating. Because I think we're all imbalanced, right? You've got a stronger right arm, left arm. You've got a stronger right leg, left leg. Maybe your hip is stronger. It's just bigger. It's bigger when it's people like who have a disability. And it's just the puzzle is a little bit different. But I think able-bodied and disabled-bodied are actually the same. You're the same in some ways because you're just another puzzle. So the engineer is figuring out why you're not walking correctly, why you're not moving this way. And when people just start walking, I'm like, hey, what's wrong with your neck? It's because they're moving in a way that's so obvious to me that is not, most people aren't looking that way.
What is it that, as you started working with para athletes, for example, Jamal, what has that taught you in terms of assessing the body?
I think it's you have to be more creative. Mm. And I think when you're more creative with people who have a disability, you're now even more creative with people that don't have a disability, that you're seeing things that are just different. So, it's fascinating being in the para world. I mean, when I was in Paris for the Paralympics, you see people who have no arms and legs, or you see people with just no arms swimming as fast as they can across the pool, hitting their heads because they don't have any arms. And they're using Katsu right there. Been using it since like 2017, 2018. And just following people who have, how can we get everybody better in any means we can that are legal, right?
Yeah.
Following all the USADA, WADA things. But as I said earlier to you, it's like there are so many things that don't even require PEDs that people just don't understand, like enzymes. Enzymes. How about we have a talk about proteolytic enzymes? Proteolytic enzymes, there's, I'm using a product that has proteolytic enzymes in it. And what they did is they found these trees that had these enzymes in that, and these trees had withstood time. So the radiation may have been higher. The heat may have been, because the earth has had many iterations in climate, right? And so they're finding the strongest enzymes in like centenarians, the older people who lived to 100. And my grandmother lived to 103, by the way. Wow. And they're finding those enzymes are in those people. And so taking that as well and combining them. And I'm used this with somebody, and so these things are, approved by WADA, USADA. And I gave it to my athlete, right? So he's only 25. So the older people, they like just feel a little more energy. Give it to a young person who's enzymes. So the day before, he was swimming 30 seconds in a butterfly. And the next day, he drops a second and a half in a 28.5. Damn. Right? And what was that? He goes, I felt energy in my body. It was, and again, we talked about this earlier.
Like a nervous system type thing, huh?
Yes, more electricity in the body. Electricity is the key. And so that's why when we have like all our phones in our pockets and things like that, is it taking away the electricity in the cells? Or do we have things that are helping our electricity get better?
All right, Mark, you're getting leaner and leaner, but you always enjoy the food you're eating. So how you doing it?
I got a secret, man. It's called Good Life Protein.
Okay, tell me about that.
I've been doing some Good Life Protein. We've been talking on the show for a really long time of certified Piedmontese beef, and you can get that under the umbrella of Good Life Proteins, which also has chicken breast, chicken thighs, sausage, shrimp, scallops, all kinds of different fish, salmon, tilapia. The website has nearly any kind of meat that you can think of. Lamb is another one that comes to mind. And so I've been utilizing and kind of using some different strategy, kind of depending on the way that I'm eating. So if I'm doing a keto diet, I'll eat more fat, and that's where I might get the sausage, and I might get their 80-20 grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef. I might get bacon. And there's other days where I kind of do a little bit more bodybuilder style, where the fat is, might be like 40 grams or something like that. And then I'll have some of the leaner cuts of the certified Piedmontese beef.
This is one of the reasons why neither of us find it hard to stay in shape, because we're always enjoying the food we're eating. And protein, you talk about protein, leverage it all the time. It's satiating and helps you feel full.
I look forward to every meal. And I can surf and turf,
Yeah.
I could cook up some, chicken thighs or something like that and have some shrimp with it, or I could have some steak. I would say, the steak, it keeps going back and forth for me on my favorites. So it's hard for me to lock one down, but I really love the bavette steaks.
Yeah.
And then I also love the ribeyes as well.
You can't go wrong with the ribeyes. So guys, if you guys want to get your hands on some really good meat, you can head to goodlifeproteins.com and use code POWER for 20% off any purchases made on the website, or you can use code POWERPROJECT to get an extra 5% off if you subscribe and save to any meats that are a recurring purchase.
This is the best meat in the world. So yeah, super interesting. When you were talking a little bit about the mind, I was watching I saw a video the other day of somebody that was about to get into the batter's box in baseball.
Okay.
And they took their bat, they looked at their bat, and it was like, it must have been a big like at bat, like maybe it was towards the end of the game or whatever. The guy holds the bat up, he looks at it, and he goes, And then he calms himself down, and then he hits the plate a couple times with his bat, and he just gets into position. Like, so he did this exercise.
Ritual.
He did this ritual, and his eyes were laser focused on the baseball bat. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as he got done looking at the baseball bat, he looked at the pitcher and he calmed himself right down, and he got right into the batter's box. And I just thought, wow, that was really cool. Like, there's way more to that than just what I saw there for a second. But then earlier today, we had an MMA fighter on who's a legend and a Hall of Famer, Boss Rutan. And Boss Rutan said that he did something very similar when he would fight. He would separate from the guy and he'd shake his arms out. He'd look at him, he'd get a couple deep breaths, and then he'd relax and he'd get back into the fight. So what are some strategies and what are some things that come to mind when you hear practices like that being done?
Open focus. So there's a book called, I forget who wrote it, but he would talk about lions. So lions will sit and they have open focus. So they're looking out. So they're calm and they're looking out. And then when the peripheral vision goes, then they lock in. The problem with us as humans now is we're locked in all the time. This is not peripheral vision. This is lock in. Yeah. And so that's stress. So we're not doing what we need to do to be relaxed and then locked in. And so when that guy was locking, he was probably peripheral when he walked up and then locked in with the bat. Or for some people swimming, they'll be, when they walk in to the other side of the pool, they'll be peripheral and then lock in, but almost out of focus, right? Because sometimes you don't want to be that focused because then you turn the mind on. You want to be able to turn your mind off while it's the flow sensation, right? Just like my problem with you made a mistake, right? Exactly.
Yeah, you're probably trying to, once you started to think, I'm imagining you were trying to be almost like, oh, I wonder what I just did right there. I want to replicate that.
Yeah.
And then now you screw everything up.
Yeah, because that's thinking. And thinking is slower than the subconscious mind movement. Yeah.
I'm curious about this, as we were doing this stuff in the gym and you were helping me, work on this wrist, you're mentioning that pretty much I was healing myself. You're having us go through a few different things. And kind of goes into the idea of people having the ability of bringing awareness potentially and healing certain things, kind of like Dispenza's talked about and you're talking about. So what are people missing when it comes to, pain and kind of healing that pain by themselves?
Right. For people who want to heal themselves, I think, when I did that work on you, which is a version of Square One, and I added the component personally of intention, because I found that with you thinking about it, it made the work more powerful. Versus, it's kind of like if I'm a doctor and I'm working on you, you lose power. But if I say to you, no, you have to be an absolute participant in this, in healing yourself, then you're going to feel more empowered. And because you're using your own brain to do the work, you are in a sense healing you. I'm not doing the magic. I'm purposely not doing the magic. I don't want to be the one doing the work. I'm just telling you where to focus. But if you could figure out where to focus on your body, then that's all you. And I really think that we need to get away from relying on other people to come save us. That you have to do the work to save yourself and not rely on others. I mean, sometimes we can't. We're in pain. We need other people's help. But ultimately, we have to do the work to be better. Whether it's, massaging yourself, whether it's getting out a gun to, massage gun to do it, getting out those lever sticks to do the work, getting on a strap like you have, or even doing like slingshot, like just doing any of those things, that's healing yourself.
Yeah, I think it kind of gets you in this weird position of if you knew how to get rid of what was wrong, then you wouldn't be like going to somebody else, right? But no one is going to ultimately fix you. It's most likely, I mean, I would say it's probably really rare. I guess maybe we can make an argument for like a surgery. Somebody does a very particular surgery. It's like life-saving. It's like, well, like I saved my life. Someone pulls you from getting hit by a car. You can kind of make an argument for certain situations like that. For the most part, though, no one really is going to save you. They might be instrumental in you getting saved, but most likely it's going to be a series of things and people that are going to lead to your success of you getting rid of whatever the heck thing you got.
Yeah. I was in Japan with this major Marine, and his name is Jamal Awad, and he had been in Iraq, and he was on so many pain medications. And then he started using the Katsu and working out, just like, remember, like you said, like, I just put the BFR ban and some things started going away, and he's been using it for 10 years, and it literally, that saved his life. Doing it consistently, daily, he got off all the pain meds and was able to function and to do, I think people give up. I think that's, I think when people are in pain, their mental state sort of gets depressed. Like you feel like you have no other options. But if we can all just know that there's always something out there if you look hard enough, there will always be something there for you. Don't ever let anybody say there's nothing else out there for you.
I think that's one tough aspect about pain and finding solutions, because after a certain point of living with that pain and being with that, you just start to believe that that's just how things are going to be. So you don't believe you can get rid of it. And it's hard if you've gone from person to person, each person shows you something and nothing gets relief. It becomes harder for you to even believe you can live without it at that point.
Yeah. Yes. And And then that's why in some ways the people who live in pain and they keep on living are some of the strongest warriors you'll ever meet. Because they haven't given up. They could have killed themselves, or they could have died, right? They could have chosen a different outcome, but here they are. They're still here. I think to me, those are the people who are admirable, because it's easy for people to say, I'm out of here. Peace out.
When it comes to the mental side of things, how do you teach or coach, positivity, or teach away from negativity, or is that something you don't even necessarily bother with?
I think we have a balance. Dr. John DeMartini, he said, we're always being challenged and supported. And if we think we are more challenged than supported, then we are out of homeostasis. So then in your mind, you actually need to take the perspective to balance, okay, so if you only think you're challenged, like I'm a victim, challenge, like who's supporting you? Oh, well, my dog is supporting
And
me.
challenge could be interpreted as being like attacked, or, and then you're on the defensive.
Yep.
Right.
Or if you're overly supported, you become... you don't, you need both sides of that. And to be able to have that, there's never negative without a positive, and there's never challenge without support, and there's never support without challenge. And if you have too many things that are good for you, you become, like helicopter parents, right? If you give your kids too much, they're not they're weak in a sense, right? Because they've never had to work with challenge. And then there are those who are overly challenged in whatever way, then they don't actually see where they're being supported. And I think the best part was when someone passes away and you feel like, you're grieving and you're grieving and you're grieving. You think that person will never be this. I'll never have that person again. But that person comes in many different forms. So, for example, I'm sad my husband is gone, and because he's no longer in bed with me, I'm lonely. And then you ask, well, who's in bed with you now? Oh, my dog. Okay, so now somebody took that place of your husband. It's not in the same form, but you're still getting the traits of that. So nothing is ever lost. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like physics. Like
if you're looking for it, nothing is ever lost. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
You were mentioning something also, how like, healing starts in the mind. And it made me kind of curious because when you were like, I had you kind of work on my wrist for a bit, you had me kind of think about certain areas, right? And then brought me to the idea, because you mentioned Joe Dispenza, he was like visualizing his spine. And anybody can go look it up with how he healed his back, but he was like literally visualizing vertebrae by vertebrae, right? So is there anything practically that you can give to people in terms of being able to slowly get rid of pain by using their mind and thinking of these specific areas? Is there anything people could like work on trying at home?
Yeah. What works is like, I mean, obviously meditation, you can just focus on it. I think what happens is when your mind, you got to play it like a game.
Yeah.
I say it's like playing Sonic Hedgehog. When you lose, you got to go back to square one, right? Like you got to go back to the very beginning. And so that's what worked for Dispenza, right? He's doing it. And then as soon as his mind was like, I got to go do laundry, back to square one, right? To the very, very beginning of focusing on it. And then when you no longer care whether you heal or not, in some ways, it's the attachment to the healing that makes it not heal. Yeah. And then when you're grateful for what you have in this moment right now, whether or not you're healed or not, or whether you're in pain or not, that's when the magic really happens. That's when somehow that's that moment in time where it's like, boom, it's gone. But doing the work that we did was very, very simple. It doesn't require a lot of meditation, right? We're just working on structuring the body so that it's more organized. And when you're organized, your software, the hardware reorganizes. And so then you don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier. But some people have like bigger things going on, right? So, but I highly recommend everyone go learn square one for yourself. Don't like do it for yourself, not for anybody else.
What is square one, by the way? You've mentioned it twice.
Square one was created by a man named Sean. I forget his last name at the moment. Sean, S-H-A-W-N, and he created that system doing thousands of hours of working with people. He's now working with like professional athletes and taking it to them. And I mean, there's even stories of like a guy who injured his ankle, D1 college football, basketball player, and they saw it. They just did square one on it, and it began to like the bruising went away almost instantaneously. And he did it on his mom. His mom was having a stroke. He was square one-ing her while she was having her stroke, and she started speaking more normally. I mean, we don't like again. I mean, I do it a little bit differently because I've kind of created my own way of doing it, but everybody should go take his class. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, don't be a victim to your pain. Go find ways to fix it.
I think one of the most painful things in the world is to worry about the stuff that you don't have. You know, like I think that's suffering, right? That's a mode of suffering is to just sit there and think like, I don't have this yet, or I haven't made it here yet. I wish I was further along. I wish I was still with this person, or like all those things. They can be very painful. And I think pain in general, I think is like, it's a loop. But I don't think it has to be a closed loop. I think it can be an open loop where you're getting some of that energy out and you're working over time. And maybe like, you know, maybe for some people, like maybe there's disabilities, maybe there's things that we're born with, maybe there's challenges or pain, or maybe there's certain things that like literally maybe there's a possibility you'll never get rid of it completely.
Right.
But can you be better off? Like, can we figure out a way to get you just to be a little bit better off? You know, somebody having a negative mindset, being worried about the things that they don't have, or they're pissed that they're not in the place that they want to be because they're in so much pain. That's understandable, but it's also not helpful.
Yeah. With some of the Paralympic swimmers, Jamal, for example, pretended he had nothing wrong with him for years. And his mom actually didn't say you had anything wrong. She just said, you need to work harder. You need to work harder. And that's great. Like for him, like that has changed his mindset. That's why he's a Paralympian. Like, because his mindset, I'm just going to work harder, like as I don't have a disability. But at some point, when I confronted him, he went home and cried because he was pretending there was nothing wrong.
No one ever gave that to him.
Yeah. So like I go, you don't have to go to the Olympics. We can go to the Paralympics. And then he just shot see there's a guy who has no arms and swimming incredibly fast. And so for those people, and I have another swimmer who has hip dysplasia, had, 6 surgeries by the time she was like, a year and a half, 3 years old, and she couldn't even crawl. Like she was like this in a cast. And she is now like 37, still trying to make the Paralympic team. And you do the best with what you have, right? You don't bemoan what you don't have. You do the best with what you've been given. So with Jamal, okay, so you don't have feeling from your knees on down. We can make your hips and your quads and your hamstrings the strongest that they've ever been. Like this guy right there, right? Like he has no arms. Like you don't bemoan the fact you don't have arms. You just work with whatever you got. Here's this guy who has no legs. And to watch these people go out there, it's just the most inspiring thing. When they come to LA 2028, I go watch a game or go watch a swim meet, and we have nothing to complain about.
You think about the challenge, okay, it's one challenge to swim and to be able to swim with proficiency the way that they are, but I don't even really think about any of that stuff. What about just getting up, taking a shower, getting your ass in the car?
How hard it is for them.
Are you driving yourself because you have some sort of special vehicle, or someone else have to drive? There's like so much involved, right?
Yeah.
Of just, the guy doesn't have arms. It's like, how do you get yourself dressed or
feed yourself?
I've seen some people use their feet.
Mm-hmm.
They find a way.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But you just think about the time commitment, so a lot of times people are frustrated or annoyed because they don't want to like do a workout because they simply don't want to just change their clothes. Like I'm talking about a regular person.
Yeah.
They don't want to just like change their clothes or whatever. And I think if we think about some of these folks that just, they just figure out a way. They find a way.
Yeah. And that's why it's so inspiring to be around people who are Paralympians. Because they not only find a way, but they only find a way to be the best with what they have. And we have no reason to complain.
Have you found that there's something different about them? Is there something different about their spirit, or something just that is different about some of these athletes that you've been working with?
For sure. I do feel like they have had it harder, and life has been harder. Yeah. There's one athlete, Morgan Stickney, who has a disease. It's a very rare disease, and they keep cutting more and more of her legs off. And she's in hospitals all the time. I mean, I think each IV bag is $125,000. And it's like you just feel so inspired by these people that to keep going, just to keep going. That's, to me, is for a lot of people. I used to work with a lot of people. I wanted to work with a lot of people with cancer. And what I realized with cancer people is they didn't want to change. They didn't want to do the work. And then I found athletes who will do anything they'll do exactly what you tell them because they're motivated. And so in a way, working with athletes has been more fun than working with sick people because they're willing to do what it takes to be a better person, athlete, whatever. And that's why I said it comes back down to the mind again, because cancer really depresses a lot of people and they don't pick themselves up and they won't make the changes. Like if you're like 300 pounds and you told them to like lose weight, most of them wouldn't even bother. And that's, to me, is like, I do all the work that I do for improvement. If I can make you a little bit better, a little bit faster, out of pain, whatever, that gets me up every single morning. And knowing that you're getting better is everything.
What's a computer you got going on over here? You were telling us about how the computer can like sort of calculate different things you might have wrong with you type thing?
So this thing is called the iMate. It's not an HP. It's called an iMate, IMAET, and it uses scalar waves to calibrate to you and then send you waves when you need it. And it can find all kinds of, it scans everything from viruses to your body parts, to your nervous system, to everything. And it is better when it's not connected to the internet. So it's not connected to the internet. It's finding your, basically, I say it's like a fingerprint, right? So you just put in your data and it finds you, and it seems to send you scalar waves based on who you are on, and then people can find out if they have stuff going on, like, and then they can take it to their doctors. In some, in a weird way, like for pets, we found pets. There's no placebo for pets. Mm-hmm. You can't tell the dog that you're going to get better. We have found that they're getting better with just typing in things. For example, in Paris, when I was at the Paralympics, my swimmer had a head-on collision, and they pulled her out of the pool. The doctors worked on her, the chiros, the physios, everybody worked on her, and then she calls me at night and says, I am in pain. My back is killing me, and I don't know what to do. And so I plug it in, type it into the computer, and calibrate it to her, and it tells me something. I run the program. The next morning, she's like, I'm fine. Now my shoulder hurts. Well, you didn't tell me. But and then she won a medal the next day. And I can't explain it. I don't know what mechanism is working. All I can tell you is I am astounded by the things it comes up with and how much people have been able to benefit from it.
It's like a chat GPT for your body or something.
Yes. And what's really cool about it is it'll tell you like, okay, because it'll say stuff I don't even know what it is. I've never even heard of some of these diseases. And it'll go like, okay, this is what it is, or and this is the upstream. And then you can go find more about it. And then you can go look. And like the other day, my uncle was dying, and I ran it, and it said, the first thing it said was depression, and I knew he didn't want to live. I already knew he didn't want to live, but it verified it on there. And then it says peristalsis. Well, yeah, he's got a peristalsis problem because he can't breathe well, and he's got lung water in his lungs. And then it also had tissue. It had too much tissue, water in the tissue. Like, how does it know this stuff? I don't know.
How long has this stuff been being used? Like, how long has this technology been?
There's been technology like this for a long time. A lot of it comes out of Europe.
Okay.
And then in this country, it's been poo-pooed, like, because we don't have the science research backed, that says this stuff works.
Even when you talk about it, it sounds wild. It sounds like something you're going to see out of like a science fiction movie,
Yeah. But I do think like we're at some level, it's like Star Trek. I love Star Trek. And I think we're heading towards like, AI, like computer, tell me where Data is, tell me where Mark Bell is sitting. That's where we're heading. And so why not expand our mind to be able to think, oh, well, this computer can actually find you and help you out. I mean, there's a timeline. You can type in your birth date and it'll go through all your years. And I have done it through enough people where the first thing, okay, say, where do you want to clear? Like, oh, so what happened when you were 17? My mom died of cancer. What happened when you're 33? My baby died in the womb. I'm like, I can't make this stuff up. And it's incredible. And they've done studies informally where they have put people on QEEGs where they have the brain things on you, and they've taken it to another room and they don't know when it's happening. And as soon as they start, it's the QEG's already reacting. So we know it's doing something. What the mechanism is, how our brain feels it, how it knows this, don't know. And we've done people have done studies where they've like taken two cells, like one in New York and one in LA, and they will do something to the one in LA, and the New York one feels it.
Wow.
And they're out there. Those kind of studies are out there. Again, don't quite understand that, but I mean, I've studied some sort of like in near-death experiences where people have gone up in the ethers or wherever they go, and this one person said she saw all these dots of light after she went up there, and she said, "Oh my gosh, those are people's prayers." Huh. Dots of light, and I like, huh. Interesting. And she came back, it's like, oh, it's like, because power of prayer, right? People's intentions, right? What she saw them as points of light up where she went. And then when she came back down, that's how she described it. So that's why I keep saying intention is everything. What we intend for people, whether good or bad, has power. I do think like black magic, juju, all that stuff is so like, that's why we have to keep clean.
Yeah.
As healers, we have to be so clean, because that line of intention, if I want to heal you with my good thoughts or I want to hurt you with bad thoughts, it's the same. And I think people really need to be very careful with their thoughts, because that is as much of just thinking that is enough to hurt somebody.
So Mark, you have been loving wearing these Paluvas for a long time. Why is it that you like these shoes that look like this?
I'm trying to get my feet to be jacked. You know, I think it's funny how sometimes people will, when I wear these shoes, they're like, oh, those are different. And I'm like, well, maybe you should blame God, because this is the human foot. This is the way that it looks. But Paluvas are awesome because it's going to allow you to train your feet and train your toes and allow for that toe spread, because you got the 5-finger toe thing going on. It's like put on a glove for your feet. It feels amazing.
It's like walking around with toe spacers. You know, we've been working on our feet for a long time now. You always hear the benefit of people talking about like these tribes who have gone without shoes forever, and they have this toe space and have these amazing feet. And these shoes will allow you to just passively get that back by walking around.
You don't realize what a disadvantage you're at when your foot is all clumped together from the football cleats or soccer cleats or whatever else you were wearing when you were young. And so it's nice to be able to splay your toes. In addition to that, though, one thing I love about Paluva is the fact that it's not a regular barefoot shoe. I do love barefoot shoes as well, but it also has appropriate padding. And when you're stepping on some crazy pebbles and rocks and different things, like when I'm out on a run, some terrain is a little different than others. I don't have to be worried that I'm going to get some sort of stabbing, crazy thing happening to my foot, because it has an appropriate amount of cushion underneath the foot.
And guys, Paluva has a lot of different styles on their website. I think one of the newest styles they just came out with, which is a little bit more of a rigorous do, is the Strand ATR. It's not these are the Strands, but the ATRs have a little bit more. If you want to go hiking with them, you totally can.
Those are amazing. If you go out, throw those on and go sprint on a field, and your feet feel so strong, grabbing the grass and being able to actually grab the ground with your foot feels amazing.
I'm more of a chill guy with my Paluva, so I like the Zen slip-ons, but that's the thing. With Paluva, there's a lot of different options. So if you head to paluva.com and use code POWERPROJECT, you'll be able to save 15% off your entire purchase. And they also have toe socks. Their 5-finger toe socks are no show, so check those out too. Going back to what you were talking about cancer patients, like there's been quite a bit of evidence now in terms of the patients who have a level of belief that they're going to be able to get through it. They do actually have a higher likelihood of being able to recover.
Yeah.
And the ones that lose hope, unfortunately, much higher likelihood of death.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where it goes back to what you're talking about, the mind. That is huge.
Yeah. It is huge. So in back to this computer, I've been using it. I was at the Olympic trials for swimming, and I looked at some athletes, and I'm looking at their ATP. It'll tell me a number, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I don't think this athlete's going to do too well. And then I didn't touch it. I just use it as an analysis tool. And I'm looking at their performance and they're like, I can't finish my race. My guess is they probably overtrained and they didn't know their ATP was not on but think about it for like a tool for athletes. I can now look without taking a blood test and find it from like a quantum level, whatever you want to call this, and find out whether or not you're going to do well.
How bizarre. I mean, are a lot of things that are unexplained, and you traveled the world and you have experimented with a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
I'd imagine there's some things that you've tried where you're like, meh.
Yeah.
Right. We tried a bunch of stuff that you had to like discard. Maybe it was like okay, but maybe it just wasn't that effective.
Yeah.
But you're also finding a lot of things that are effective, and you're taking those things and you're utilizing them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun because I feel like it's play. Just like you are playing in the gym.
Yeah.
Like I play with a lot of equipment too because I'll buy just about everything. I have this thing that you're
sand dune stepper.
I got it all. I got not quite as many things as you, but I've got a lot of it. And it's a lot of fun because it's what if it gets you 1% better? It's worth my time.
I agree. What are these things?
These things are patches, which they're called LifeWave patches, and they use light. And light is another thing. It's like light, electricity. It's using isopolymers and refracting light into you. They did use these in one of the Olympics with Michael Phelps and the team, and people said they were doping, but it's not doping. WADA said there's nothing wrong with it, and people were swimming faster with just using this. But I use them not for sports performance per se. I'm using it like acupuncture. So I call these acupuncture without needles. So if we can, like, if you are getting sick, right now, and you got a weight vest on, but if you touch right here, right under here, is that a little sore? Yep. And so that's lung 1. Lung 1. And I would put this, if I had caught you earlier, we could have caught it, so your cold didn't come. And then we would have put in the acupuncture points right on lung 1 and could have stopped it all from happening. But the thing about yes, you can, I think alternative medicine is better when you catch it early. And so my family's all like crazy. Like I go, what'd you just do? I go, you just coughed. Like, no, I'm just clearing my throat. And I go, no, that's the beginning of your cold. You need to start now. Don't wait till it's fully in your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me ask this about when it comes to, Eastern medicine, Western medicine. How have you kind of morphed the two? Because I think a lot of people, when they think about TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, it's pure BS. Like it doesn't make any sense, even though that's still practiced all over there, right? And people are getting results. So with you, understanding elements of both, how do you marry it?
Well, I think if you understand, I don't even understand the meridians. I'm not a TCM practitioner. I just have a basic knowledge of like, okay, this is like the stomach line, that's this line, the kidney line. But I think if you're open to all of it, you begin to see there's patterns, right? Nothing is ever all by itself, right? Like T cells or energy meridians. If you press here, does this make my kidney feel better? Or, for example, like you have some sort of sinus thing going on. Every time you have a cold, you should work on your adrenal and kidney system because that's a big drain on it. And how do you marry it? I think if you begin to understand the science of like T cells and basophils and eosinophils, and you begin to learn all the different, physiological and biological and chemistry that goes with it, then you can begin to combine both of them together.
You probably use a little bit of both, right? Like I'm sure some of the athletes that you work with, some of the people that you work with, they probably have other trainers or coaches or doctors, and maybe some of the means that they utilize, maybe they are fairly traditional, but you're not necessarily against that stuff, right?
No, I'm not against it. I just wouldn't be my number one.
When it comes to like the medicine side
of things. So, yeah. But even like rehab, like I've looked at, I've had physical therapy and it didn't really work for me. And then I did FRC, functional range conditioning, and kin stretch, and that worked for me, or just, I just constantly looking for whatever is going to work. Because even no matter what, nothing works 100%. I don't care if it's a supplement or a drug or the patches nothing works 100%. And you're going to be different from Nsima and different from me. And so what I think when we we're Western medicine, where I'm looking for is let's find out what works specifically for you and your biology and your physiology. And when we get to that point, I even think that's for education, should be the same way, right? I don't think we should just stick people in school. And it doesn't matter, private school, public school, like we should have something specific for Nsima. If you're a kinetic learner, or if you're a audio learner, why wouldn't we just make your strength stronger? And then, obviously we should, as an athlete, we work on our weaknesses if we want to be the best.
Yeah.
But in terms of making kids feel better, making athletes feel better, work on their strengths so that they're knowing they're getting better, and then they have the mindset to do the work on their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Work on the strengths first, right? I don't know your story for weightlifting, but you're doing BJJ now, so how's that going?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, been doing it for almost 10 years now.
Okay, yeah. And so, but in the beginning, it was...
Oh, yeah, hard.
Hard, yeah. So it's about like, how can we constantly be growing? My grandmother was 103. Till the day she died, she was still learning English.
Let's go.
Bless her heart. She wasn't doing a very good job of remembering she was learning English, but she was constantly learning. It's the growth mindset. And at 100, she decided, I'm going to go get my own apartment. I'm tired of living with all you people, and I'm going to go get my apartment. And she would go down the stairs, like the stairwell, like, everybody's taking the elevator, and she's going down a dark stairwell. Like, Grandma, like, who's going to find you if you fall in here? But she's like, no, I'm going to work out. Like, she's working out. My dad is 87 years old, plays pickleball, plays basketball, and he's still running around. And I think if the key to longevity studies, well, I study longevity studies, so I can make athletes. Is that me? Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to turn it off. Longevity studies are what makes athletes stay in the game longer. So how can we have a Tom Brady not be the anomaly, but be the norm? So I studied longevity studies. What are old people doing, right? What do we need to keep the old people alive? What do we need? But now I've gotten to the point, now I'm working with older people, and I go, like, older people, you need to be like Olympians. Stop laying around. Train like an Olympian so that you can be strong all the way to your hundreds. And so that's where we need to go with our older people, right? Train like an Olympian all the way to the end.
What are some other things you've seen to be effective for people that are listening that maybe are in pain? Maybe they got like joint pain. Have you seen, things like turmeric or any of these supplements or foods, anything or any sort of like rub? I'm sure you're probably familiar with DMSO. That's been around for 9,000 years. But any recommendations on anything that seems to help or just make the injury less intense?
Well, I love katsu, right? So I think that will take away pain.
How's that feeling, by the way?
It's off. It's off
right
at the
now.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can, if you turn it on, I'll do constant. Okay, turn it on till the blue button's on.
And blow them up before the show's over.
I'm going to blow up. Watch.
Okay.
Here, give me both arms. It's going to go to 400. It should.
He's like right at the limit here.
Let me do that one. Okay. It's going to hurt.
Okay.
It's going to hit me in the head.
What my new big thing is proteolytic enzymes.
What's the best brand, by the way? I looked that up on Amazon. There's a bunch. So
I use this brand called Sankey, Sanki. And it's network marketing. I'm not a fan of network marketing, but I watched this video in which this doctor had stage 4 bone cancer. It is one of the most painful cancers. That's what fentanyl was made for. So he was on morphine, morphine, and then to fentanyl. Like, that is it. He took this for 4 days, and he didn't have to take it every hour, like the medicines. And he started within 4 days. He was like, I only need to take the painkillers once a day. And to me, when I was watching that, and usually I've got an ADD mind, but I zoned in on this because I realized what he was saying. He said, when you have cancer pain, you don't want to eat because it's so painful. And so as soon as he was able to get out of pain, he could eat. Then you can feed the body. Then you have nutrition. Then, then the mind becomes better. And so, but I'm now into Proteolytic enzymes because, with some of the people with long COVID, they take nattokinase, serrapeptase, those help them. Some enzymes have helped people get their periods back. Enzymes have helped people have normal periods so they don't have pain in their periods. Enzymes have helped people with their skin, with their acne, because enzymes are the basic building blocks of life. It's enzymes, amino acids, and proteins. And without those building blocks, we don't do well. And so when I saw that guy who had been super sick get off some of his pain meds, then I was just, wow, what's it going to do for somebody who doesn't have anything wrong with them? And just being able to have more energy in the cells, electricity. And I think one of the things that I can test in here is voltage of your cell. I can see if you have electricity in your cells. I mean, not see, like physically see, but like the analysis. And I don't think medicine right now is testing the electricity voltage in your cells. And that's what's going to keep you. And maybe that's chi. Maybe that's ki. Maybe that's what ki is. We don't have a scientific word for ki. But the chi flowing for our bodies might simply be electricity.
By the way, you mentioned chi and ki. Same thing, right?
Same thing. Just, Japanese and Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah, and with the supplements, are there any other things stand out?
I love colostrum. Again, a protein, right?
Yeah.
A simple protein. I mean, not simple, but
arms
like
blowing up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Simple protein. I think it works better than collagen. It's just the basic, because probably there are stem cells inside the colostrum that we're getting naturally, right? What else? I mean, there's so many good things out there for for the average. There's things for
just the average person, like in pain. I did mention DMSO. Do you ever use that with people?
Yeah. You can use DMSO. A lot of people use it for arthritis.
It's a cream, yeah.
It's a cream, yeah. Quanta Rub, which is, like CBD rubs, are pretty good as well. What else? There's so many good things out there. But I try not to use creams if I can, because I would rather try to get to the root of the problem.
I see.
Right? Because if you have arthritis, what do you have going on in your body? There's a ionic calcium supplement, which you can use for your teeth, in which this person was using it, 70 years old, and needed some implants, but her jaw wasn't strong enough. She took this ionic calcium supplement called Dentagen, and she grew it 50% in a month.
Shit.
Like, that's crazy. So they also have it for young kids. They, some kids have grown multiple centimeters, because if they but then what is the mechanism? Why is it working? I think it's calcium and electricity because calcium has a channel, and that channel also has an electrical component to it. And so if the electricity isn't working well, then you're not going to have good calcium absorption, or you're not going to grow. It also helps with the big C as well.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this. Do you tend to, because I know you work with different people outside of athletes, but do you tend to find more success with athletes because I feel like athletes are really looking for answers to find more of an edge. They're looking for, they want to figure out, solve these problems so that they can get further. So they're willing to try things. They're willing to be open-minded to things. Whereas, I don't know, somebody isn't. Sometimes they're just way more reserved into what they're willing to do, what they're willing to allow themselves to believe. What do you tend to see?
For athletes?
Yeah, athletes versus general population, if you notice a difference at all.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Athletes will try anything to get that 1% better. It's just a different mindset. Like my dad is not open. Like my mom is not open to a lot of things. Like nah. Like, the eye rolling. Actually, that's the biggest thing. Is people, almost the smarter they are, the more they roll their eyes. The more educated they are, the more they roll their eyes. And I'm looking for the educated ones. They don't have to be formal education. Like Cal Dietz will say, I'm like the stupidest person I know, right? But he's not, because he's willing to learn everything that's out there and go with it. It's the eye rolling that drives me crazy. But I've learned to, I'm a little persistent, but if people are not open, it's waste of my time. But sometimes I'll keep trying. If there's that opening and I find the right moment, then okay, let's do it. Let's try something that you've never tried before.
Ryan, you got anything over there?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And where can people find you? Find out more information about you.
It's probably best to just find me with Healing with Wilma on Instagram. My website needs to be redone, but
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Strength
you.
is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.